It's day 71, 6,129 verses left. After one of his own disciples betrayed him, Jesus is now a prisoner and all of his other followers have done a runner. Judas the betrayer is so overcome with remorse that he throws the blood money back into the temple and he goes and hangs himself. Jesus now stands in front of the Roman governor Pilate, whose job it is to decide whether Jesus will be whipped and nailed to a cross, and because of a tradition at the time, the crowd release a murderer called Barabbas and Jesus is sentenced to be crucified. They whip him, strip him, and nail him to the cross. The people watching mock Jesus because he can't save himself from the cross, but if you look at Matthew 26:53, he totally could save himself, it's just for some reason he allows himself to be killed. Why the heck would he do that? When Jesus dies, there's a huge earthquake accompanied by a little zombie apocalypse. What? Jesus is placed in a tomb by a guy called Joseph. Not his dad, that's a different Joseph. And a huge stone is laid across the entrance to the tomb. Because Jesus had said he'd rise from the dead, the Jewish authorities asked for soldiers to be placed outside the tomb to guard against grave robbers. Still, that doesn't stop Jesus from resurrecting and busting out the tomb on the third day and telling all of his followers to spread the word across the world. The grave robber story still gets circulated because the priests pay the guards to make it up. So then we head into Mark's gospel, and unlike Matthew with his long lists of names, the whole book begins with all guns blazing. In the first chapter, Jesus assembles disciples, drives out demons, and heals a load of people. In chapter 2, he actually claims to be God when he tells the paralytic that his sins are forgiven. The religious people go nuts because no man should claim to be God. Unless you are actually God, then it's totally fine. Jesus talks to a deadly storm in chapter 4 and it calms down, and Mark tells us that he was so chilled about the whole thing that he was asleep on a cushion. Sheesh, what would it take to wake him up? In chapter 5, we learn that a demon-possessed man is so strong that he can break iron chains on his feet, but that when Jesus talks to him, he gets completely well. Cool, he's a wonderful counsellor. Jesus' cousin John was beheaded in chapter 6, and all because the king was drunk and liked dance moves. I know, weird story. Then in chapter 7, Jesus teaches that evil comes from inside us rather than from outside influences. But on the upside, it's fine to have bacon sandwiches. Peter gets called Satan again in chapter 8. Now there's a nickname that's going to be hard to live down. But he had just realised that Jesus was the Son of God, so he wasn't doing too bad. Tune in tomorrow for a terrified naked guy.